Welcome to the Cricket Badger IPL Daily Podcast 2021. The Indian Premier League 14th edition. It's great to have you with us. From the first match all the way to the final. Chennai Super Kings, Delhi Capitals, Kolkata Knight Riders, Mumbai Indians, Punjab Kings, Rajasthan Royals, Royal Challengers Bangalore, Sunrisers Hyderabad. May the best team win. Brought to you in association with Who Knows Wins. Put your money where your mates are, and play along with the Cricket Badger.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome along. It's another edition of the Cricket Badger IPL Daily Podcast. We were complaining yesterday that the match was very one-sided. Well, today it wasn't one-sided at all. It was a last over thriller. It came from nowhere. Rajasthan Royals beating the Punjab Kings. I have Neil Varani with me today, who is quite happy about life. He's looking ahead to the Sunrisers playing tomorrow. I have Claire with me today, who may turn the air blue because she's our Punjab Kings fan. And Claire, first of all, welcome back to the podcast. It's very good to see you and very good to have you back. But how on earth did they lose that?
Yeah, I haven't got the foggiest, to be honest. I'm really struggling to find any words to try and I'm going to try not to swear, so I'll keep those little words to myself. But I don't know. How do you manage to lose that? Solid partnerships and everything, and then you just let it dribble through your fingers in the last 2 overs. Okay.
I was looking at KL Rahul's face towards the end there. I was looking at the coaching staff's face towards the end there. They just wanted the ground to open up and swallow them, didn't they? Because it was in the bag. 2 overs out, it was in the bag.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out. I mean, there was a couple of wides potentially. I'm thinking in my head that, I just feel like, you've got hold of something and it just trickles through your fingers, and it's just. I mean, it's a phenomenal way to lose a match. How do you do that? How do you conjure up a loss like that? Can't you hear me?
I was agreeing with you, Claire. No, I don't know. I don't know how they've lost it. I mean, Neil. I mean, we talked yesterday about the fact that it was so one-sided, but today just is proof that you are never out of a T20 game. If you keep plugging away and you take it to the final over, you never know what's going to happen.
I know exactly how you manage to lose those kind of games because I'm a Sunrisers fan, and we've managed to do it a tremendous number of times over the last couple of years. Especially, and this is a case of karma being a naughty little lady. When we did it against the Punjab Kings last season, where I think we had 8 wickets in hand and needed about 30 off the last 5, and somehow still managed to do it. I think what really shocked me today was the quality of the players who let it slip. And we were talking about, we were talking theoretically about the makeup of Punjab's teams on our WhatsApp group on the basis that we all thought that Punjab had it in the bag. And looking back at those conversations, then, the little tweaks that we thought they could make, they've all been kind of brought to the fore. KL slowing down after I wouldn't say a dynamite start, but a reasonably fast one. Is he doing that because they've got such a shallow batting lineup? When you've got Fabian Allen at 6 and then Bra at 7, Adil at 8, could with 6 proper bowlers, could they've had the universe boss in there and really strengthened that middle order. Does KL slow down because he's worried about what's coming afterwards? Should he have carried on at the same rate, knowing that Rajasthan have got the Fizz, they got Morris, Tyagi at the death, who
he was excellent today.
Yeah, and we've been talking about the potential since seeing him in the under-19s a couple of years ago, but wow, the temperament that he showed in that last over, where there was a very, very obvious game plan to put it out wide, make sure that there was nothing that these guys could really smash over to the leg side, which is, noted skill for both Markram and for Poram.
I must admit, I felt for Markram at the end there, because he'd done nothing wrong there. He'd batted quite nicely, I think, on his debut in the IPL. Just found himself at the non-strikers end, didn't he? I mean, Claire, there was a stat that Knuckle put on our WhatsApp group today, which came from Cricinfo originally. All 3 century stands for the first wicket between KL Rahul and Mayank Agarwal have ended up with their side being defeated. What's the reason for that? Because they're 2 terrific players, but do they go too slow? Do they have nothing that follows them? I mean, what on earth goes wrong?
Well, it's difficult to say they go too slow when they had such a solid start that wasn't particularly slow today. And then it's difficult to say there's nothing that follows them, because, then Pora and Markram come in and, they had nice, solid 50 partnership of, I don't know, less than 30 balls. So, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I am really lost for words. I think
it feels like, Neil, it feels like we're being cruel today having Claire on, doesn't it? It feels like we're being cruel.
My big comeback, And I mean, no, I haven't said a word on the WhatsApp group. I've just sat here thinking, it's just this feeling of inevitability. And I think it's just so weird, because every team I've kind of backed, even over the weekend, I was supporting Somerset. And then my ladies' team played, we lost. And then, my second team, Mumbai, lost. And I just had this feeling that it's like, sometimes it's just not going to work out. And then I guess all my hopes were there. It's like, yes, especially after...
thing is,
the way they finished off the first innings, I thought, strongly, and then it
is. We build it as a really big match today, because with Rajasthan where they were in the table, with Punjab Kings where they were in the table, it almost felt that the winner had some hope left. Whoever lost this match today was facing a pretty tough end to the season. You got to win every single match from here, and even that might not actually be enough. So. For Punjab now, having played 9 played 9 on 6 points. Yeah, seventh in the table. Only Neil Sunrise is below them. Sorry, now, but that doesn't look good, does it? Now,
it doesn't. I think it's more or less game over. I don't know how you come back from that, and especially from such a kind of devastating loss. It's not like. Yeah, if you just had a bad day at the office, like RCB had, whatever you say is a bad day at the office, this actually wasn't a bad day at the office. It was quite a strong day, and still you didn't have enough to get over the line. So it is really disappointing.
You know what we're going to do at the end of this podcast, Claire? You are famed for your morale-boosting, rallying cries. So at the end of this podcast, you are going to turn Punjab Kings season around. So get yourself ready for that. Fabian Allen's catch, Neil. Let's go to some of the bright spots of the game. That was an absolute cracker, wasn't it?
Oh, that was unbelievable. And the thing is that I saw that and I just thought, well, that's Fabian Allen. That is what he does. We've seen so many ridiculous catches from that lad over the years, and I actually feel a little bit sorry for him, because for a lot of the time, he's been like the 6th or 7th overseas pick. You know, he's there in case of injury or possibly for matchups, but he has so much more that he can offer. He, in a different game, you know, he'd be the one coming in with 2 or 3 overs to go and suddenly be cracking 20 off 6. It just wasn't that situation for him today. But yeah, I mean, that was unbelievable. Absolutely superb for a player who, to catch a player who is, as some people have said, is probably the most in-form player in the world in the short form format at the moment. That felt pivotal, and the way that the Rajasthan innings ended. Now, can you imagine if they had Livingston there for those last 4 overs when they kind of fell over in a heap? That should have been a hugely pivotal moment. So, yeah, on a personal note, I'm very happy for Fabian Allen for that. But yeah, it should have been something that turned the tide. And, you know, up until 3 overs to go, it really seemed like it was.
And the other one, Claire, as well, who deserves praise from the Punjab Kings side, is Arshdeep Singh. His 5 for 32 today, obviously aided by Fabian Allen's catch, but he bowled beautifully today and doesn't deserve to be on the losing side this evening, does he? I mean, only a couple of overs before the ends, the cameras pointed to him as if he was going to be man of the match kind of thing, and he was smiling in the dugout. And then 12 balls later or whatever, he's on the losing side.
Yeah, well, it looks like, yeah, he and Shami really closed out the innings well. Again, yeah, you wouldn't expect after that to be on the losing side. It's just really demoralising. Yeah, I'm still lost for words. Oh dear.
I mean, Rajasthan Royals, they got off to a storming start today. And then got hauled back, didn't they? I mean, if it had been the other way around and Rajasthan Royals had lost this game today, they'd have been feeling like you are, Claire, wouldn't they? Because they would have thrown away a very good position.
Yeah, maybe they would. I don't know. I mean, it's like, yeah, they had a good start, but they know that they were hauled back. Whereas this, it was like, you know, you just, I can't.
We've never had anybody cry on the Cricket Badger podcast,
honestly. No, I think I cried once before, or I fake cried once before, but and I'm not crying. I've got a cold actually, so I'm just gonna have to sort that out. But yeah, I just, in some ways, I just can't believe what I just saw. I can't get. It's just yeah. What
I asked Claire the question about Mayank and KL. Neil, and I saw you shaking your head on your side of the screen. What's your logic to the fact that they've now had 4 century partnerships between them and finished on the losing side each time?
2 words: Amla rule. If Hashim Amla can score a century, then your team's been going too slow, and should have been going faster. The left runs out there, and I think that's been the problem. And it's not Mayank. Mayank has generally been going at a pretty strong rate of knots. But
if you watch the
plays
graphic,
within himself.
You watch the graphic towards the end of the match today. KL's currently the MVP.
Yeah, well, I mean, these stats get done on very little, and I think that also people. And I put the commentators down very strongly, both the IPL commentators and especially the Sky Cricket commentators. They apply ODI and Test metrics to T20 or 100-ball competitions, where there is a huge value on your wicket. What people forget when they're playing a lot of these teams is that you have 10 wickets to lose. And if you've got a load of batters, you're wasting resource by not going hard, by preserving your wickets up front and not scoring enough runs there, and ending up with a lower score than you should have got. I think this is actually one of the reasons why England and to a lesser extent New Zealand, because they don't quite have the same resources, have been so good in these formats, because people don't put a price on their wickets and they trust the people lower down to continue in the same vein. And you know, it's my most hated phrase in cricket, but the brand of cricket that Owen Morgan always talks about is that exactly. It's you're playing for the team, you're not playing for your own stats. So KL absolutely piles on the runs. You know, he's always around the, I want to say, orange cap for I think it is for the batting, but he's going too slow. He's eating up too many balls. Whereas you look at a side like England, then you don't have people who score 50s that often, but you have a lot of people who will score 35 off 20. And if you've got 6 or 7 of those, then you end up with a higher score than if you've got one guy scoring 100 runs off 70 or 80 balls. And KL has got that issue. Another issue is that you've got Chris Gale coming in a lot of the time at number 3, and I actually think that he should come into this team, who does exactly the same. There'll be a huge acceleration at the end if he's still there. But the balls eaten up to begin with really damaged the team as a whole. So team ethos above individual stats is clearly the way to go to get a higher score than you would otherwise get, and for the team to do better.
Claire, I'm going to be really cruel now. I'm going to take you through the last 3 overs of this match. Aidan Markram, the first ball of the 18th over, smashed a 6 off Morris. And at that stage, it was just a case of a couple more of them. That's it. That's job done. The next balls in the over went 1-1.1-1. Then, so we had 2 overs left. ... 1-1-1-1 in the 19th over. And then the final over from Kartik Tyagi was .1 wicket. And then we had...
2 wide.
Hang on a sec. We had .1 wicket, wicket, . And Kartik Tyagi was made man of the match as a result of that final over, basically. And that to me, Claire, if you can take your Punjab Kings hat off for a second, that final over that he bowled there was terrific, wasn't it? Can you take your hat off?
I don't. Can I take my hat off? It's difficult. I'd want to watch it again because obviously at the time it was like I wasn't paying attention to that end. I was just like thinking, score or do something. But yeah, phenomenal bowling under pressure when really it was almost a foregone conclusion that, you were just going to try and keep it tight. But I mean, to go into that over and pull that off, yeah, it's an amazing achievement under massive pressure. But a couple of wides would have made all the difference.
But he moved across though, didn't he? He moved across, and he was
standing in the slips.
He was for the first one. Yeah. Neil,
yeah, not for the second.
The Punjab Kings bowling today, I felt, I mean, they seemed to stack the team with spinners on a pitch that wasn't turning. Adil Rashid, I've seen him bowl some beautiful spells in T20 cricket. Got no assistance from that track whatsoever. He was just cannon fodder because it was just not turning at all.
No, and he didn't adapt to it either.
I mean, the point of the question there was, should they have actually played as another seamer and not played as many spinners?
I've got to say, I don't know how the squad stacks up that way because Meredith hasn't come, has he? And Richardson hasn't come. So I know
they've sent all the big money.
Ellis is back.
Yeah, it's Nathan Ellis who they've got.
Yeah. I've seen Ellis I watched Ellis's debut against Bangladesh, and yeah, he did pick up a hat trick with the last 3 balls of the innings, but actually looked fairly tidy. I thought the makeup of the team was wrong either way, because
it's the benefit of hindsight. But Deepak Huda,
no, even before, Huda was going to be in because his batting was probably the highlights of the Punjab's first half of the season. He was superb. So he's a part-time bowler, but they had 5 proper bowlers there, plus Huda, who's chipped in quite a lot, and that's where I was wondering as the game was going on. They look a bit light on the batting. I think with hindsight, yeah, possibly another seamer. I still think Bishnoi could have done something, just because he's a different type of leg spinner to Adil Rashid. Adil bowls a lot of googlies, but Bishnoi is, I don't say exclusively, but it is a huge percentage that he does, and to have it going into the batters and cramping them up may have added something. But I just thought they were batting light, and the problem is, if you do bat light, then not only are you going to struggle if you drop wickets, but the batters who are in sometimes feel restricted because they don't feel like they can trust
what's to come, don't they? I'm going to put Claire out of her misery. We're going to move on to 2 different subjects now. Claire, have England let Pakistan down? I mean, a lot of talk about England's not cancelling their. I mean, they call it a tour. It's 4 days. I tweeted earlier, I've had longer stag do's in my life than this tour. But they touch down. They play, was it 3 games, and then they go straight back home again. But are England right to do that, or do you think they've let Pakistan down? Bearing in mind, Pakistan came across twice to England in the heat of the COVID pandemic.
Well, yeah. I think essentially, England, everybody's come and toured here, and, we're not handling the pandemic particularly well or whatever. And I think, it would have been nice to be able to honour that and go on that tour. So, yeah, a little bit.
I mean, I listened to a Pakistani.
It's difficult, isn't it?
I listened to a Pakistani message board conversation thing on Twitter yesterday, and Pakistani supporters feel really, really let down. They feel they were looking forward to it. They were looking forward to England coming across, and they feel like England have just basically pulled the rug out from underneath them. And to be honest, I sympathise, Claire.
I do, yeah. I mean, I read George Dobell's article today, which kind of, summed up a lot how I was feeling about it. And I think, it's a tour that we've been waiting to happen for a long time. Like you say, Pakistan have toured here. So I think, and for the length of the tour, there's been a lot of talk, obviously, about, bubble pressure and all that, but it's a really short time to be there. So I don't even think that's really an excuse. I think it's disappointing.
Well, I mean, and Neil, it was the chance for the women to go there for the first ever time as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a very strange week with regards to both tours of Pakistan. I have complete sympathy with New Zealand, because I think if there is a direct and credible security threat, then the board have a duty of care to the players. So I sympathise with New Zealand in having to pull the players out if it was something that was a credible threat directly at the team. With England, I initially sympathised on the basis that they use the same consultants. It's Reg Dickerson's consultancy who advise New Zealand and England and Australia for February next year when they're supposed to be touring. But then the statement came out from the ECB, and quite frankly, I was spitting feathers because security was not mentioned at all in there. It was due to bubble fatigue, which, well, there were two things: bubble fatigue and poor preparation for the World Cup. So I'll go to the second first. Preparation for the World Cup. I don't exactly see how not playing any T20s at all in the run to a World Cup, especially when all of the countries have got their warm-ups planned, is going to help at all. I don't think it addresses the women's first tour of Pakistan when they have a World Cup in New Zealand January and February next year, and they're going to miss out on something which would have been historic. And then bubble fatigue. Wow. Well, in July, bubble failure led to England pulling an entirely new squad out of their back pocket at a minute's notice in order to fulfill their commitments to Sky. Here, with notice, England aren't able to drop phone calls to Phil Salt, Zach Crawley, Lewis Gregory, and say, all right, look, the guys who would be in our first team squad who are going to the World Cup are pretty jaded after all the bubbles, which is fair enough in your own planning to do a tour. The safety aspect is not an issue. We've had that from Reg Dickerson. We've had the High Commissioner to Pakistan speaking publicly in the last few hours, which, wow, that looks bad for the ECB. Will you guys come out for a 5-day tour, 1-day quarantine? You know, you've all come out to the PSL and had to spend longer in quarantine and longer in Pakistan. And therefore, we can fulfill our commitments to a country who have twice come over while England's in lockdown. Once when COVID had barely hit Pakistan into the UK, where we were absolutely riddled with it and lockdown. They they were apparently promised the Hyatt in Birmingham to do their quarantine, and then got stuck in a travel lodge outside Derby. And yet they stayed for 2 months and in such restrictive
travel lodges
conditions.
are quite nice, some of them.
Well, I don't know. I go with Lenny Henry in the Premier Inn. You know, those beds are comfy, but it's not quite the Hyatt.
On the security thing, I saw a couple of things today saying that the security protocols or the level of security that England's security company had said was currently in place is exactly the same as when England had agreed the tour to start with. So it's not a security thing at all. I just think it looks really bad. I just think I feel for the people of Pakistan. I just think it's not the way we often use the hashtag cricket family, like, you know, we're all in this together kind of thing. And it smacks of being only in this together when it suits certain people, doesn't it, at the moment, which I don't like at all. Let's move on, though, because we're running out of time today. Very quickly, Delhi Capitals against Sunrisers Hyderabad tomorrow. Neil, I'll let you sum up in a minute. You have Sunrisers Hyderabad. Have they got any chance at all at the bottom of the table? Can they snatch something out the fire? Can they beat Delhi and go on a massive run and make the last four?
You know what I've thought over the last 3 games? Rusty. These teams have looked very, very rusty. Yeah. So it's a great leveler, isn't it? Considering the shambles we were. Well, actually, I was looking back over the games, and we were a shambles in a few of them. We also managed to throw away several very, very good positions to win games.
Don't mention things like that when Claire's listening.
So I think it's all going to depend on the players, and you know, depending on which players have been in and out of bubbles and are absolutely shattered, and who's actually had a chance to have a net and get themselves ready. A lot of people really look like they haven't played cricket in several months, and you know, we've got a couple of new faces. Maybe, you know, Davey Warner's taken his year off at the behest of Cricket Australia.
Well, there's some people. I mean, Poran's 21 today is his highest score of the IPL 2021. I mean, that's a low benchmark, but some players who were in poor form initially in the first incarnation of this IPL might suddenly be a completely different beast as we make the run up to the final. So it is going to be interesting, I think, how it pans out over the next few weeks. We have only got time now, Claire. I've said it at the start. I'm going to come to you now. You are walking into that Punjab Kings dressing room now. The lads
with a big stick.
Their jaws are on the floor. They look like they want to go home. They look like they want to be anywhere else but Dubai. You have 30 seconds to lift their spirits, pep them up, and get them on a winning run.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll take a different tack. I don't think it'll take me this time because today is Chris Gale's birthday. And if I think I know that guy, he will have a party on tonight. So I think they all need to go out, party, forget this day ever happened, put it behind them, and then have some really big, maybe a Bloody Mary to recover tomorrow and just get back on that train and go for it. Because, you fall short by not very far, but there was some good stuff on offer. You've just got to, find a way of letting go. And, I'm sure the big man will show them how to party. And, put it behind you. And and go for gold, go for it. Nothing to lose now. If you get it, you just go for it. Because,
there you go.
There was a bit of reserve nature today, so go for it, boys. That's what I'm saying.
Let your hair down. Let your hair down tonight. Go for it, Anil Cumberland gang. Let Chris Gale have a major party and see where that takes you. That's basically the message from Claire, your fan on the Cricket Badger podcast. Gentlemen and lady, thank you very much indeed for joining me today. We'll be back, of course, every single day as we go through the rest of this IPL 2021. I know Claire is feeling a bit down today, but there's one thing for sure. It was a hell of a game. A hell of a game. How they managed to win that Rajasthan Royals, I have no idea. And hopefully, just around the corner, there's joy for Claire. We'll see her smile again. And there's more games like that, because if you have that up until the final, then we're going to have loads and loads of entertainment. Claire and Neil, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody out there, for watching / listening today. Thanks to our sponsors, Who Knows Wins, and blackratcricket.co.uk. Have a look at their website, by the way, blackratcricket.co.uk. They've got a big sale on. So if you're looking for new bats, some new pads, whatever you set for the next season, then have a look at their website and see what they have to offer. But we will see you again tomorrow. Thanks.